Ms. Miller? Here. Mr. Olson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Clock? Mr. Erkins?
Here.
Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none. Did you all get the information about needing to give your identification for changing to employee?
Well, of course, but I forgot what we were supposed to do.
Bring a form of like a passport or social security card. Anyway, she's on her way up here if you wanted to hand them over. Okay. You want to take them? Yeah. I can take them.
Driver's license.
Yeah. Anything. I promise I'll give them.
I want that blood credit card.
It gets
Okay.
you too much use.
What if I just make sure my passport?
Oh, that might work. You want to?
Okay. Well, thank you, Pam. He was having a date. He said, "Can you look?" Yeah. She didn't even have gold. She just had one of those. deep green.
You're like, I'm keeping mine.
Well, keep in mind.
All right, that's all I have. Comments, approval, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes dated October 19th.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
On to the monthly activity and financial report, Kat and Anne Marie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. You know, a year ago, we had just presented the budget for 2022, and it was a record budget, and it was based on conversations we'd had with the board. And, you know, Jim particularly said, you know, let's not do again what we think, you know, let's budget to what the business demands were. And we did that, budget 8.1 million. The first month out of the chute, and you know, Jody's comment about my budgeting prowess last month came to light a little bit about you know, a better word for sandbagging. But you know, it was interesting because again, a year ago at this meeting, all of a sudden we were in the throes of Delta. Christmas parties were canceling left and right, and we had just gotten the highest budget ever approved by the board. And so we came into this year, a quarter of December hit, and which is the first month of our fiscal year, and we started our year $250,000 below budget. Horrible month, horrible start to the year, and you know, we got a little bit ahead. We caught up a little bit in January, February. We were still behind almost 200,000. All of a sudden, month by month, we started picking up and pecking away at it. So, you know, one month we got up a couple of $1,000. Another month we got down to budget a couple $1,000, and all of a sudden the year felt like it turned into a marathon. And you know, you keep hitting the mile marks, and it's like you're checking one off, and you're making progress. So about through June we were neck and neck, and then July hit. Had a great month in July, had another great month in August. October rolls around and we break the first $1 million month ever in the history of the district. So for a year that we started out way behind, and I'll tell you, this was definitely not a sandbag year. The way we brought a roller coaster throughout the year. But you know, I'm going to have Anne Marie, when she gets to her part of it, really touch more on this. But I'm really proud of the team. We're going to break records this year. We're going to clear the 8.1 by a couple 100,000 at least. So I'm really pleased to be here this year talking about and the budget we put together next year obviously is a record even beyond what we thought we could do. So, but I really want to recognize the team that we have, because this time last year, we were struggling on staff. People were canceling left and right, and all of a sudden we had no idea what the rest of the year was going to be like. Subsequently, Cody talked with our counterparts out in Portland the other day, and he's on the regional team. They're planning the regional event out in Portland. Portland's reputation has gone somewhere they didn't want it to go. I can tell you that, again, thanks to the support of our board and your trust in us, I can tell you our reputation is intact. Our retention is huge. We're up over 200 employees. The recognition that we've had this year, Top Workplaces Award locally, we've had the Top Conference Center Award, we've had several other awards this year. And the commitment from this team, couldn't do it without all of you. So it's fun to be here, better than last year. And being able to let you guys know that successful year all around, record year for operations. And we ran some reports before coming to the meeting to make sure that we were going to achieve better than goal. So anyway, just want to let you know that a lot more fun sitting here this year than it was last year. So. As you all know, that we do training meetings on a regular basis. We also celebrate longevities of 5, 10, 50, well, increments of 5. So this year we had several 5-year and one 10-year recognition from a variety of the departments. The meeting was great, and our logistics committee actually coordinates the meeting, and they did an outstanding job. So this was the annual gala, and that we held recently. Some of you attended it. Went off exceptionally well. Another great event. This is our AV team, and particularly want to recognize we've got a new department head in the AV side in Dan, and then Chris Morrison is retiring at the end of this year. And he's our patriarch. He's got 27 years with us. So Chris is on the right. Dan's our new hire on the AV team. I wanted to put this in as well. We talk about the amount of training and development we try to do internally. And this one really, it sits on Brandon Doty's shoulders as part of his safety security. And again, just an area that we don't talk about often with the board, but there's 2 areas that I speak with you about on a fairly consistent basis when it comes to attitude, commitment, retention. And there's a couple of things, at least in my own opinion, that clearly indicates how well a facility is doing as it relates to the commitment from their team.
Hello?
One is actually one is workers' comp, and the other is turnover. If you have a really high turnover, then obviously you have a problem within your ranks about just how the facilities operate. For people to not do a great job. If they're not happy, it's a way that they can take advantage of an opportunity with an employer. I'm really pleased to say that if you can see the rates, we did have some accidents back in 17 that rolled into 18 and impacted our incident rate. It was the highest that it had been in a long time, but we've been very successful. Even, COVID was an off year, obviously, but still, as an incident rate, it's based on the number of hours and the amount of wages paid. So against your incident, your claim rate. And so if you look at our incident rate from last year, it's even lower with more hours and more people working. And so where this is going is, again, the commitment that we make on training, on safety, and making sure that people like what they're doing and where they're doing it at is reflected in these numbers. And I want to recognize Brandon because he's really the driver of a lot of this. So we were going through this morning and I thought it was very worthwhile for you to at least get a perspective where I come from when I look at how we run the operation and what's reflective in success. So some of the activities, again, we had the first $1 million month. It's going to be interesting to see about turkeys this year. I don't know if I actually forwarded the email on to y'all, but our vendors are telling us we actually had to shift a turkey dinner, and I think they went to chicken last week because we couldn't get product. So some of the commercial, some of the grocery store and stuff probably have different access points than some of our bigger vendors. But I thought it was interesting that for the first time that I can remember is that we actually could not serve turkey here. So I thought that was interesting. The Government Finance Officers Association appointed Anne Marie to their Small Government Advisory Committee. Very proud of her. And again, as we've tried to develop our team, she's on a local committee. Cody's on the regional IAVM. Allie is on the national IAVM sales team. So the sales consortia. So again, the employees here are getting recognized for their efforts on both regional as well as national boards. So I'm being a small facility in a big ocean of big facilities. It's kind of fun to have our people out there. I talked about the all employee training, the 2023 with the contract. Not only is it being finalized, it is final effective today, signed off with Carrie. And I think I talked last month about some of the challenges that we've had with room blocks and hotels. And it's been a topic regularly. And again, this is absolutely nothing negative with our hotel partners. It's a very positive relationship. But again, because of the laws of supply and demand, leisure market versus convention market, they've been somewhat restrictive on some of their blocks. And so I met with several of them, and Carrie was part of that. Allie was part of that. About 2024 and beyond, and 2024 being a key year when new properties should be starting to come online, both out near Eagle and Overland area, which a couple of them are inside the district, a couple of them are outside the district, as well as the downtown market as we're starting to see new build. Now, there's a couple of projects that have been delayed, but so there's some nuance here as far as timing. But the point being, wondering if they're going to change their booking policies and allow us to book more convention rooms. The overall comment was, well, it depends, and it just depends on timing. So we're always 2 years behind in booking. So as I alluded to them, I say, hey, if your strategies change anytime soon, you need to let us know, because our selling strategies are going to have to change commensurate with that. So at least it was good dialogue. For the time being, things are sort of what they are. The demand is still out there. So if things shift, we'll hopefully get bigger blocks. But they were a great conversation. It's always good to stay in touch with our partners. So,
Madam Chair, Pat, Anne Marie, now that we have a board member of the Governmental Finance Officers Association, have we changed our mind about pursuing a certificate?
Not really. You're talking about what used to be the CAFR, and now it's the ACFR.
Well, it's a compliance certificate we used to get at Percy and a number of government agencies.
It's like an award that for beating all of their criteria. It's a hard thing to look or to pay for. It takes a lot of manpower and time to do it. When we print less than 20 audits, in the end of the year, we've got 10. So I'm not sure what value it would provide. If the board wants it in general as a recognition, right, to say we meet this standard, you can look at that. From a information to the end user, I'm not sure it's very helpful or needed. Maybe wanted might be the better word.
Yeah, well, it's an issue of constituencies. And I don't think it is, I've always thought it was pretty important to respond to people who are wondering about our transparency. But now that we have a major accounting firm, I think that goes a long way. And clean audits go a long way to satisfy that. I'm not saying we need to do it, just wondering.
And regarding the transparency, I have something that will provide more transparency that I'll talk about. When I get
Thank
to
you,
my
Madam
part.
Chair.
So again, visitor center stats, what's fun lately is the international visitors as much as where they come from regionally, but when you look at more international travel coming in, I think it's just interesting to where folks are coming from. On the visitor center, we're probably going to not have the visitor center existing here after the end of November. Our contract with the city ends the end of the year, but the visitor center at the CVB has opened. And so it's a duplication of efforts, we think. So Cody has been, the two of us have met with the city, and then Cody has been finalizing the renewal of the contract on the plaza. So our control of the visitor center is probably going to come to an end. Well, it will come to an end. So just FYI. It's not going to have any impact, we believe, on the hoteliers. And we will know just to refer people down to the CVB, and there will be signage and things like that. So
What's
we'll make
gonna
sure
happen
that
with the
visitors get,
space?
sorry.
With the space? With the space that's currently the visitor center?
The city owns it, and so they haven't determined exactly what they want to do. The DBA wanted to use that space as part of the skating rink that Jen Hensley was working on. That's I believe it's going to be postponed at this point. So the city hasn't decided exactly what they want to use it for. There's been some discussion about some of the Parks and Rec people being able to use it, or using it as a satellite for the bike patrol, the downtown bicycle patrol. Not sure wintertime makes a lot of sense, but certainly summertime. So they haven't let us know exactly what they have in mind for it. Again, we talked a little bit about the numbers. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about margins. That was a big topic of part of our budget conversation. Cody and I had some pretty detailed, and Anne Marie, our margins last month, based on the amount of revenue, was over 34%. So, you know, we painted a little bit of a bleak picture on the margin side as we got into the budgets, but quite honestly, we're starting to see some really positive results from the way we've managed the facility. And back to what I noted at the start of the meeting, and on that topic, we've achieved beating our budgets and at a record level. And keep in mind that we actually turn away business based on the lack of availability, or at the time we weren't sure what the employee status was going to look like. So hindsight's two things. I think the decision was a solid one. Luck, much happier to be lucky than good, but you know, we could have taken more business and burned out the team, and we would have sacrificed them. We didn't do that, and so as a result, we've not only maintained a great staffing level, we did turn away some business, but at the end, I think we're much better off for it. So, so Cody, nice job on the margins, Anne Marie. The rest of the numbers, like I said, we've talked about a little bit already, so looking very positive. Closing in on the end of the year, again, we are pretty much where we are. Festival of Trees next week. It's great having them back. It's going to be a huge event. They're using both buildings, so we anticipate a lot of attendance, a lot of excitement generated out there. It's kind of fun hearing people talk about it. Nice to have back. So just a couple of comments as we try to throw in. I put something up there if people really didn't like us, but we haven't received that. So if we get them, I'll throw them in too. But so far so good. Occupancy and ADR as I talked about a little bit briefly with downtown hoteliers, they're really pleased with where things are going. They like our contribution, but the demand and rate is in their favor right now. So continuing to break records. Second highest room revenue and demand in history of the district. Not much more I can say about that. Jim,
Sure.
question?
Yeah, how many rooms do we still have that are coming online within the next 6 to 8 months? You know,
6, 8 months.
yeah, I don't, there's some hotels right now under construction that,
Well, there are, but they're more like a year out, year and a half
Okay.
out. Yeah. And we've got about 350 rooms in the market that should come online, and that's more downtown. But Jared Smith's properties, the property that he owns next to the Hotel 43, he's pushed that out. The last I heard, might start late 23, even into 24. So that those two might, again, just depends on market conditions. It could always go earlier, but for right now, he's pushed it out a little bit. There's 2 properties worth about 360 rooms out on within the district, on the east side of Eagle Road, the other side of the freeway from St. Luke's. There's 2 properties out there that Ball Ventures are building. And then there's another select service property on the west side of Eagle Road, sort of in line with the other select service properties that are out there. Don't know the brand on that one. I think there's a Hampton and a Huddy Inn Express, and then this new property out there. So that's why we were talking about 24 is, that could be kind of a swing year with Jared's properties. The property right behind the Wahi, it should open in the next year and a half. And then there's the Sparrow, which is the Grand Lock on the property that's being renovated just across the street, basically from Hawaii. The Safari,
Oh, yeah.
for the old Safari Inn. So, that should help room tax as we look into 24, 25. Again, the addition of the properties. Just a side note, as more and more sports are coming in, it was interesting talking to the downtown hoteliers. A couple of the properties that don't have very many double rooms with 2 beds, they're suite properties, or they just don't carry a lot of doubles. That actually hurts them during the sports season because obviously they're families and teams who want rooms with more beds. So those properties out along the freeway that have more doubles and properties like the Riverside and the Downtowner, they do really well. Same thing with the Grove Hotel. So as more of, as we get to the ICA, more of the sports teams are, they'll certainly have an impact on downtown, but I think they'll have an impact on some of the outer properties as well because of their availability of 2 bedded rooms. Allie and her team continue to book business. Again, we're looking heavily into 2024, 25. 2023 is pretty well booked. I'll let Anne-Marie talk more about the percentages, but as we have come in previous years, about 50% of our business is booked in the year, and that's changing. I'll let Anne-Marie talk about that when she gets here. So again, it goes to the management, the space management and revenue management that we've been putting in place and that we've talked about moving forward. I think that'll be an impact in 25 and beyond. We've talked about the number of peak rooms and what's available several times. Allie's done a good job in trying to make that information available as well. So I spend a lot of time on that.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. As Pat said, I'll say it one more time because we're just ecstatic that we broke $1 million in record for the for revenues at the center. And then the district had the highest revenue for October as well. When we started the budget last year, it's kind of like what, I mean, I can remember going, where in the world do we go? And I don't think any one of us would have thought we'd have $1 million a month in this year. We forecasted to have it, but to really hit it, especially when we started freezing events in May and booking for the year because we didn't have enough staff. Our gross margin is trending upward. It ended, like Pat said, the month at 35%. Again, that has to do with the revenues, because as you have more revenues and it offsets the fixed cost. But we also, with the price increases, our food costs as a percentage of revenue is dropping, and our labor costs. So that has obviously contributed to the improvement in the gross margin. We have moved our investments over to Clearwater Advisor. That was effective the 1st of the month. So that's a great opportunity for us. We're really excited to be with them. And then in general, our expenses.
Madam Chair, Emery, have you moved money?
I have not moved money because I was holding the money back for the $2.6 million commitment that we made on ICA.
Thank you.
You mean the extra money, right?
Well,
Yes.
I'm wondering if we hit the 20 million.
No. So once we get that, I'll talk about that a little later. Okay. Anyway, our general expenses are under budget, despite our increasing insurance. When we did our bid, we got a 3-year fixed price on our insurance. It's increased though, because the market values of our property has increased. And so that's driving up the cost of the insurance. We're also have added some terrorist insurance and some cyber risk insurance, which our insurance agent recommended. And then computer support, we continue to move our softwares over to a SaaS type service, which usually is more expensive than if you buy the software. At least you see it as computer support, where you have your savings is on your maintenance and your labor to take care of your own systems, and you really don't see that in this category. And then, of course, recruitment expenses. With the tight labor market, our recruitment expenses are over budget as well. But we've managed to make reductions in other categories so that overall we're under budget. And this shows you that we're $3.6 million under budget. Our loss is $3.6 million less than budget for the year. And 1.6 million of that's from the center, the district's almost 2 million. You will see here the aquatics is running under budget, and that's because of the revenues. When we put the ICA project together, we forecasted that it would be done in like October, and that then the revenue would increase for the finished construction project. Since we're still in construction, we're charging them the original rate. And so that's resulting in the under budget on that. So here you can see we're forecasting. When I prepared this, we were forecasting it to be at 10,240,000. I went and looked, and we could beat that even by another 100,000. Because this is just using budget of 749, and last year was 854. So if we even do as well as last year, we'll be up above that by about 100,000. So you can see here that our revenues are significantly over budget. That's the blue line for November. We're forecasting the blue line in November. We had forecasted that at 596, and that was the 8.7 million. Right now we have a forecast of 822. So that could possibly put us over the 8.7 million. Even more, you know, $1 million month does help the revenues. And a lot of that extra over budget is coming from the AV group. We invested over the years in our own equipment, and that's been positive on the revenue side. It also helps our gross margin because the AV has a higher gross margin than our food and beverage. The food and beverage is by far our largest revenue source. Let's see. As Pat was talking about, when we started in on the budgeting, historically, we had budgeted about 50% in the year for the year. We are now budgeting about 30% in the year for the year. So it's helping us make our forecasts more accurate because we see it in the forecast instead of estimating.
So why is November? What was, I guess, what happened in 19? That's not happening this year.
21.
I'm not sure that we actually had festival added in because it was still kind of.
For this?
There was 1 year that we didn't. Well, there were last year, and then there was the year before that, it crossed over.
It was 19, I think. 19.
Crossed over year end. Okay.
It's the timing, it's the accounting timing on it.
Yeah, because I was wondering why, you know. Yeah.
Here's our square foot utilization. You can see the big black line in November. We're gonna hit the end of the year with a bang. Nice to have the festival back. And then we're also, if you go to the far left, you can see we're heading strong into December compared to last year as well. And then on the aquatic center, as I said about the rent, instead it was budgeted at 21,000 and we're billing out at 7.8. We paid 100% of the construction costs in September. We transferred 800,000 from the district for building costs. Our total cost funded is 2.7 million. So our total for aquatics is 6.7 million at this point. We have $300,000 remaining of its original $7 million commitment. And then we have the $2.6 million commitment pending. And it's my understanding that I don't think we'll have a payment this month. It sounded like ICA was gonna pick up the payout this month. Okay. I just heard it secondhand, so I didn't want to be spreading rumors. And then all I would ask everyone, I know we sent out the email about the W-2s. And so if you could get online before the end of the year, well, even sooner than that, because we can't issue you your big checks until you get all your paperwork in. So thank you.
Questions for Connor and Marie? With that, I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On to other business. Pat, did you want to introduce the consent agenda?
I would, thank you. This is the first time that we've used the consent agenda. This board. Having watched how it worked with CCDC, the city, and it worked pretty well. So the opportunity here is to have all the information was sent to the board ahead of time. Want us to approve to add Juneteenth to our benefit plan. Approved to update the board, the staff communications. That was 23rd. The last time that was really reviewed was 2013. Update the board director policy and procedures manual in 2013. 22, the Ada County multi-hazard mitigation plan approval that will require a signature from Kristen and I. That's been talked about several times now. Approval of the travel and entertainment policy. Anne Marie and I reviewed it. She updated it to meet federal guidelines. It was an update. There wasn't anything other than just updating that was needed in that. The financial reserve policy, and then the continuing disclosure procedures policy. We can pull any of those items for discussion or explanation if the board like, because most of this is routine or has been discussed previously, that we try to do it all in one fell swoop. So whatever the board would like to do, happy to do it. This is a time saver for everyone involved. So
Madam Chair, I can just move to approve the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Second, is there any discussion or questions that anybody has on any of it? No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So the only action remaining is you and I to sign it when we get this done. So
Admin stuff done, right?
yes, thank you.
Okay, ICA, Ryan?
Madam Chair, Board, thanks for having us back. Before I start on this, I want to mention that we had the pleasure of having our Bishop Kelly swim team banquet here last night. And it was fantastic. Food is great, service is great, room is great, everything was appreciated. So just wanted to extend that to Pat and the team. We just had a wonderful time. A lot of positive comments about it. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, busy month. Wanted to run through just kind of some updates, timeline, construction progress, financial stuff, obviously answer any questions you guys have. And so I'm gonna dive into construction progress. So again, extend the invitation. Love to get you guys out there. The pool installation stuff still continues to be underway. Both pools, all the walls have been completely formed out there. So when you walk in the building, you can really see what's happening and how the pool lays out, the deck space around it, where the bleachers go. It's kind of definitely starting to see how this whole thing is going to come together and look. So it's kind of neat. The support facility, so that's the locker room, admin space, mechanical, all those walls and framing are starting to go up. So we're starting to see that will be the west end of the building, kind of take shape, see what the locker rooms would look like. Outside is where our chemical room is. They're starting to put the lid or the concrete lid on top of that structure, so that'll be finalized. And then they've kind of been waiting for the weather to warm up just a little bit. Looks like that's going to happen for us next week. They'll start pouring sidewalks and whatnot on the outside of the building. Their goal is to get a lot of that pavement work done and out of the way before the real cold weather hits. So we were just out there actually before this meeting. They've got all the driveways staked, everything. So they're really kind of prepping all that stuff pretty quickly. Probably the biggest issue is our HVAC system. We had our monthly meeting with CM Company as well as our architects, Pat Walsh, on Tuesday. And the HVAC system, which was ordered in May and was scheduled to be delivered in January, is now scheduled to ship on February 24th, which means it arrives the first week of March. It will take them 3 weeks to install and balance. And once we can turn that on, then we can fill the pool. Can't fill the pool before that because otherwise you just end up with a giant humid bubble. So everything kind of gets shipped back until that delivery and connection. Unfortunately, what that means is it shifts everything in April. Nick and I have kind of poured through the revised schedule that they gave us. We've got a litany of questions that we're gonna go back and talk to them about. We actually had a Bertha representative here today. That's why we're out there today, actually, is just kind of walking through the pool with Bertha. And they have some suggestions for us as well. So we're gonna go back to CM and see what we can do to kind of obviously get everything moved forward as best we can, knowing that the true holdup will just be that HVAC system when it arrives. You know, unfortunately, what CM has told us is they've done everything they can and asked every question they can to get that moved up, and we're just in a queue. And it sounds like we're lucky we got at the queue when we did. If orders placed today are actually seeing 12 to 18 months out. So I mean, I'd say we're lucky, but I know that's a little bit later than we had hoped for it. So that's the delay we're at now. We don't foresee any other issues. Like I said, everything else is on site. Every piece of equipment, all the pools, all the buildings, everything's there. So the HVAC piece is really just the last thing to come in. So as we get any other developments on that, we'll obviously keep everybody apprised of those. But everything else should be kind of moving forward. And the goal is essentially to have everything 100% complete so that when that thing shows up, that's all that they're working on is finalizing the HVAC system.
Since HVAC was such a huge dollar sign, does this equate to any sort of discount?
I wish.
Have
We
to ask.
asked the question, don't
Have
worry.
to ask.
Yeah, it's just kind of nuts. Interestingly enough, you know, some of the numbers we've heard from our pool consultant, water design, and then also from Bertha today is that, you know, pools, say 3 years ago, were being put in the ground for about $200 a square foot. And today, the quotes are in excess of $430 a square foot. So more than double than what we anticipated. And honestly, the people that are exploring these same options that we're doing now are running into budgets that far exceed what we've run into. And that doesn't make us feel any better about it, to say the least. But it does make me feel good that we were able to secure the things we did and secure them when we did, because it's certainly kept the cost at 18.5 where it's at, and it hasn't moved since that kind of initial shock back in January. So it sounds like from a time perspective, on one side wasn't all that great just because of COVID and what that's done to supply chain. But on the other side of that, we were early enough that we avoided, you know, a more than 100% increase in the price. Just some more photos for you guys. This is a view from the west side facing east. That first pool there in the front is the program pool. You can kind of see the competition pool in the way back there. Again, both pools in. So it's kind of peering down that side from the building to the wall of the pools. I'm going to forget perfectly, but I think it's about 35 feet. And that's where the bleachers will sit, and there'll be some deck space as well. Kind of from the other corner of that, again, that's the competition pool. You can on that bottom side, on the bottom photo, kind of see where they've installed this gutter system, and then essentially everything gets backfilled up against that wall with pea gravel and whatnot, and the concrete will go up to the edge of that gutter system. And on the top, you can see where they're installing the gutter system. You can see the PVC pipes kind of running along that photo as well, and that'll all get installed here just in a matter of weeks. That's kind of what they're working on today when we're out there. So this is the kind of the facilities end where the locker rooms are and such. This is the mechanical room. You can see kind of the door frame that's gone up there on the top left, and the wall starting to go up. And then on the bottom right there, that's kind of sitting. It's almost like we're sitting kind of right in the entryway with our office there right at the base of that picture, and then restrooms and fire rooms and whatnot over there where the walls are starting to go up. Outside, they've put the posts in the ground for the canopy, and inside they've actually got the duct socks started the installation on that. They look like they're sagging. Once they actually start blowing air, then those things will be tight almost. Once they're kind of filling with air, then it actually looks like you can see a rigid exhaust system. But for now, they kind of hang. there'll be essentially two that run along the roof line, and there's two more that run along kind of on the lower side of that roof, so there'll be four sockets that run the length of the building. They're essentially working west to east, so as we see those sockets go up, we'll see lights go up, we'll see everything kind of move as they move back themselves out of the building. And then from a funding standpoint, budget hasn't changed. Numbers show line pretty close with Emery. So we've got get 18.5 total costs, 11.4 in the date, 7.1. That's without considering the all the contingencies and stuff that got built into it. But we have finalized our bank financing. We're very excited about that. Funds will be available immediately. And they are working very hard for us to make those available to us by the end of this month. So holiday next week doesn't help a whole lot, but we've got everything kind of queued up for them. It's just a documentation issue at this point. They're working on the loan documents so that Dan Marie said we can cut the next check and keep everything moving forward. And then continue to work on our fundraising and capital side before we have to worry about you guys for that 2.6. So we're going to keep fundraising against that. And with that respect, I'll just kind of quick update on our capital campaign. Again, we're still the corporate asks that we've had, the significant ones at least, are still under review. We've reached out to those parties and again been given positive signs, but they're just not in a decision-making mode. We anticipate that's going to happen before the end of the year. It sounds like a lot of them are reviewing applications now for early 2023 funding. So that timeline works for us. So hopefully we'll get a response in the next few weeks. We continue our discussion with one of the local school districts, just kind of working on details on that. We received a $50,000 grant yesterday from the Julius C. Yeager Foundation. That's in addition to the $100,000 they had already put into the project. So we're grateful there for their support. And we are anticipating a kind of post-holiday announcement on some naming rights as well. So everything's kind of, once we kind of got through the debt issue, we're feeling pretty good about everything at this point. Any questions at all?
Madam Chair, I was looking through the CGA memo, and I just wondered, so the timeline, they have project completion May 15th. You guys are anticipating that'll be actually earlier?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what they did on that timeline is there's a whole bunch of items that they placed into May that are all items that can be done in March. And that's what they stated in the meeting. It was like, we're just drawing these out as if though this is the absolute worst case. In other words, we wait till the HVAC gets installed and then we do items 1, 2, 3, and 4 when we can actually do items 1, 2, 3, and 4 in March. So, when I put them on the spot, they said, yeah, we're April, should be fine. And like I said, some of the items that Nick and I have highlighted, we're going to have a discussion with them and see where that, make sure that all that stuff gets kind of, the way the timeline is written now, I think there's some adjustments before that gets finalized and published to the program system. So, like some of those things you've highlighted don't quite make sense from a timeline perspective. We want to make sure they get placed back where they should.
Then the other question I had about the change order 1, that's the only change order.
Yeah.
Can you, because I'm a little dense, I'm just not a very good reader, so can you explain them just a little bit more to me?
Yeah, there were a lot of smaller items that amounted to about $12,000 in total difference. The larger item was a concrete change. And essentially what happened was CEM Aquatics, the people who were installing the pool, originally had concrete under their scope. And CM was working with the local provider, and I'm going to forget the name of the local provider. Shoot. But the local provider that's done the concrete for everywhere else, in the outside sidewalks, everything else, agreed they could do it for $200,000 less. So what the change order's done is it's taken the $200,000 out of CEM's scope and put it, and essentially that savings has just been put into contingency. So we're not reflecting that we've got $200,000 of savings on the overall budget. We just simply slid it over into a contingency in case something else happened, rather than have to change it for an uglier number down the road. So we do see a change order in summary is essentially $200,000 of savings that kind of put over in this pocket and $12,000 in kind of various ups and downs on really my items. And again, it kind of goes back to just securing everything so far in advance. I mean, the sprung structure, the pool, all the equipment, CM's done a great job just with the labor. There was definitely some concerns when we got started and just available people to do a lot of the work. But they've really taken a lot of that on and we won't admit to it yet, but as we look through the numbers, it looks like we'll ultimately see some savings on the installation of the building. At least we're hoping that'll be the case. It's like their cost has been less than what they had estimated, so.
And just a refresher, the first big event that you planned to host is in August?
July, middle of July.
Do you feel like it gives you enough time to get up and running, get kinks worked out?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to have more time, of course. But, in a perfect world, we're in this building, December, but we knew that we'd be looking at kind of this March, April timeframe. And, again, as long as we're in there for 6 weeks, we're gonna be pretty content and give ourselves plenty of time to test everything out, make sure we understand how all the chemicals are gonna play once you put a whole bunch of bodies in the pool and what happens to the facility when you put a whole bunch of bodies in the pool. How does that surge tank adapt to, having 600 kids at the pool one time? Obviously making sure all the timing systems, board and all that stuff kind of is working the way it's expected to. But yeah, we're not too worried about being ready to roll on that.
So the board can race each other out there.
It's already sketched in as part of the opening ceremonies, yeah.
Other questions? So you'll let us know when papers are finalized and everything regarding.
Yeah, for sure. I'll channel everything through Pat and obviously if anybody wants to reach out directly, always happy to answer questions as we go. So.
Fingers crossed on some of your capital campaign.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we're excited about it.
good news.
I don't see this, who's taking care of it.
Okay, I was wondering, I'm like, we can talk about it more. It was a big document, but.
No, I think-
All right, seeing the next. You have some.
Madam Chair, I was doing my presentation, I told Jody I would talk about the transparency, and then I realized afterwards that I had skipped over it. We are implementing a new budget system called Questica. The city of Meridian and the city of Boise have it as well. And it has a capital planning part to it as well. But the biggest thing about it is it's going to be online. And so there will be the ability to go in and look at certain levels of the financial statements. So we will upload all of the transactions, and as we go forward, that's one of the things that we'll be discussing is at what level do we want to make the information available. But you could open it up to the constituents to go in and look. The city of Meridian is probably a little closer. The city of Boise has what they call open book, which is what we would be looking at implementing. But anyway, we're pretty excited. The system we have right now is server based, and it's like going from a Volkswagen to a Volkswagen Bug to a Cadillac. And it'll be very, very beneficial to the team when they're doing their budgeting as well.
And should help with audit.
Pardon?
Should help with the audit.
It could, in the sense that we can create graphs. And so the graphs and stuff that I'm using in the audit, I take and create separately. So yeah, it would.
All right.
Madam Chair, I move to go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061A and do so by a roll call vote.
For the board meeting? Okay. I'll look at it.
Which year? Oh, I thought you meant this.
This December, right? Or is it next December?
The first, December 16th. First line.
It is, it's Friday. You all moved it.
Right.
To a Friday?
Yes.
And I changed the date, but not the date.
You moved it to that Friday because.
Yeah, we moved
somebody
it
had
to
a
the
conflict. Friday because it was the only day that would work because of, that's for this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because the week of. Right, and it's next, oh, that's. So this year we bumped it back because we didn't want to have any events the week of Christmas. It was, our board meeting would be the only event to bring people in for Christmas week.
It's on my calendar. I just wanted
Okay,
to
that's
correct.
okay then, 16th.
We sort of, are you guys recording it?
Yes.
Okay. Kristen, you want to indicate that?
Yes,
Jim,
need it.
Jim
I'll send it out to you.
firsted and
I've had it.
Jay seconded.
Say that again?
Jim first, Jay second.
So you came out of exec session at 3:40, whatever it was, 6 or 7?
Okay. 6.
And see no other business before the board, right? Adjourn. I was waiting, you were like, looked like you were gonna say something.
So, yes, but before we do that, let me, so,
Pam's birthday's tomorrow too, so this is
Oh.
a dual birthday celebration.
um,